All right. Y'all ready, Margaret?
John's at live streaming.
All set.
Okay.
I was waiting for the big countdown. He always does. As all of y'all, I think, know, both the chairman and vice chairman weren't able to attend today's meeting. The bylaws that we operate under, our rules, do not provide for any guidance on how we proceed. So we're just going to ask someone to make a nomination from the floor on one of you members to be our chairman for today's meeting.
I move to nominate Jeremy Milling.
Second.
Okay. If there's no discussion, all in favor of Jeremy chairing today's meeting, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're it, Jeremy.
All right. Thanks, Doug.
Ready to rock and roll.
All right, I'll go ahead and call to order this Board of Zoning Adjustment meeting on July 6, 2020. We'll start with roll call. William Guest, Chairman, is absent. Sanford Davis, Vice Chairman, absent. Vernon Coleman.
Here.
Lewis Golden.
Present.
Adam Metcalf.
Here.
John Burrows.
Here.
And I'm Jeremy Milling, acting chairman for this meeting. We do have 5 members attending the meeting, which provides a quorum. This is the meeting for the City of Mobile's Board of Zoning Adjustment for Monday, July 6, 2020. General procedures for this remote meeting are as follows. All applications are recommended for approval with the exception of agenda item number 1, which is requested a holdover, and agenda item number 2, long and long. When applications 3 through 9 are called, staff will admit the concerned parties associated with the application into the meeting. I will then ask if the applicant is in agreement with the staff recommendation. If the applicant is in agreement, I will then ask if there are any questions from any board members. Once the board concludes their questions of the applicant and interested parties, I will declare the public hearing closed and the board will go into deliberation session. When the board has rendered a decision, the applicant and concerned parties will leave the meeting or will be sent back to the waiting room by the meeting host where they can disconnect. For agenda item number 2, once the parties have joined the meeting, I will announce the beginning of the public hearing and I will reiterate the board's following rules regarding numbers of speakers and speaking time. As a reminder, 5 votes are required to approve a variance. All right. Hey, and real quick, everybody, will you put your microphone on mute, just because I think from time to time we end up getting some background noise if you're not speaking. Thank you. All right, next is the adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Motion to adopt the agenda.
Do I have a second? Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the agenda has been adopted. Margaret, I have Bob Isaacson calling me on my cell phone.
I got it too.
He must have, I don't know what's going on there.
He's inviting you to a breakfast in the morning.
I thought he was speaking at this meeting in just a minute.
He is signed up to speak on item number 2.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay. All right. We're going into item number 4, holdovers. Application 6322. I'm sorry, Margaret.
You go ahead. I apologize.
That's right. G. Allen Garstecki Jr. and Kara M. Garstecki for setback variance to allow construction of a covered patio within the required rear yard setback in an R1 single family residential district. This application's been in front of us a couple of times. I think they are requesting a holdover again, and it's my understanding, I believe, that they want to present it at a meeting which we are all together. So they are requesting again another holdover.
That is correct.
Okay. Do I have a motion to hold this over?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you. All right. Margaret, do you want me to go and announce this application and then you'll bring in the parties?
Let me bring them in real quick.
Okay.
All right, guys, they started the meeting.
Bennett Long.
All right, guys, they started the meeting.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I have admitted Mr. Pipes, Mr. Bennett Long, and Mr. Earl Long.
Says he didn't think it's a problem. Well, what you said, he said he doesn't think it's a problem.
All right. Thank you, Margaret. Is it okay for me to proceed with application number 2? Or are we waiting on Mr. Isaacson?
Mr. Isaac,
Mr. Isaacs is in here on my Zoom with me. Sorry.
okay,
All right, we're ready to proceed?
yes.
All right, application number 6327, 3600 Spring Hill Memorial Drive, front yard and side street yard setback variance to allow the construction of an 8-foot high metal picket fence within the required front yard and side yard setbacks in a B3 community business district. Staff recommends that the board consider all relevant aspects of the applicant's concerns and determine if the proposed front setback variance request merits approval or denial based upon the findings of fact. All right, before we get started, and I turn it over to Mr. Pipes, I'm going to read just a few items as far as rules going forward. The application is limited to a maximum of 4 speakers in support, limited to 5 minutes each. The applicant will present their application in conformance with the board's rules. The board will ask questions. Once the board concludes their questions of the applicant and interested parties, I will declare the public hearing closed and the board will go into deliberation session. When the board has rendered a decision, the applicant and concerned parties will leave the meeting or will be sent back to the waiting room by the meeting host where they can disconnect. All right, Mr. Pipes, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Casey Pipes, I'm here for the applicant. The applicants are Earl and Bennett Long, the Long Brothers LLC. And what we have is a significantly scaled back request from the original variance request. It no longer matches the summary description you had, Jeremy. We're only asking for a 7-foot high fence instead of 8 feet now. And the variance request only pertains to a front yard setback issue, not side yard. Originally, the request was 332 linear feet of fence in the setback, and now it's only 84 feet, and it's front yard only. So we submitted some documents with the app, with our supplemental application that are available. This chart here shows the original fence in red, in the reduced fence in blue on this screen, number 1. As y'all know, the setback for height in the front yard, and this is one of the unique things about this property, or one of the challenges, is a corner. So it's got 2 25-foot setbacks up front and side. The height restriction is really a line of sight issue, and as you can see on the next slide, we drew where the cars come up on the side road and how they are not impacted by this fence, for line of sight. And traffic engineering did not have any problems with the original request, and presumably even less so with this modified reduced request. The unique issue about this property is this fence is needed for serious safety concerns. This is a safety related fence. Immediately to the west of this site and south of it are a collection of what I call the interstate hotels and motels, and a 24-acre vacant property that is become one of the 3 major homeless encampment areas in town. This is a very large area. It's connected by drainage ditch to Dolphin Street and to Airport. It's connected over to the service road by the Spring Hill Memorial Drive roads, one of which leads right past the subject property. And this area is, in combination with the interstate motels that are immediately adjacent to this property and continuing further south from it, create a very distinct safety problem with foot traffic, homeless people that are coming and going at all times, people that have no other legitimate means to support themselves, which presents a lot of crimes of opportunity. And what we need to do at this office is protect it by keeping, particularly after hours, when the staff, some of the female employees, and other fewer than all, but some employees are still working in this law office, from being harassed when they go to their car. On the slide 4, you can see in yellow, the next slide, whoever's driving them, shows. Yes, Jeremy.
Real quick, if you're not speaking, could you put your device on mute, just because we seem like we're getting some feedback pretty consistently. So if you don't mind, just put your device on mute if you're not speaking. Thanks, Casey. Sorry about that.
Well, one of the staff comments to the original application was nobody else seems to need a fence in the area, and that's just not true. There are fences all over this area, chopping up these properties, these hotels, and dividing them from other places. And if you go back one slide to number 4, there's a yellow line showing all of the fences we've been able to find since we've made this application that are either going up now under new construction or existing, some of which are in the right-of-way setback areas. Whether they got a variance or not, I don't know, but they're all over 3 feet. They're all designed to keep people from crossing them. The one that appears to
1 minute.
Thank you. There's the next slide shows some of the pictures and exhibits. There's a white vinyl fence at the U-Haul place immediately to the south that runs around that property and the neighboring hotel. It goes out into the setback on Spring Hill Memorial and the service road. You also see the Econo Lodge putting up a new fence, an 8-foot wooden fence between it and the Days Inn. And there's a image of this gentleman's been sitting on a couch outside right in the shadow of where the fence is going up to separate those two. Delaney Development's got a barbed wire fence or a chain link fence with 3 strands of barbed wire at the top. And then we've shown you some exhibits that show what our proposed fence is. And with only 5 of y'all there, and we know we need 5 votes to get the variance, I'd really appreciate it if somebody has a serious concern about this to let us entertain a holdover so we can present live where we thought we'd be, but for the governor's order instead of denying it, because we feel very passionate about this fence request and how necessary this is for the safety of the people that work at this building.
Thank you, Mr. Pipes. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Pipes?
Jimmy, I'll just make a comment that I think this amended version, at first I was a little apprehensive about setting precedent, basically citywide with this, but I think the amended and revised version you put together with the drawings, y'all did exactly what needed to be done, in my opinion, to sell me on it, so to say. So I support that.
Thank you, Mr. Golden.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
None.
Mr. Metcalf?
the other day I noticed, I was on Florida Street and, Florida and well, where the old, Florida Bowl was, where that, 3-story, condo development is.
Uh-huh.
There is a minimum of an 8-foot, iron fence encircling that entire property, including the frontage, and it's on a corner. And it's the same situation. So there is, it's not on the interstate, but it's in a neighborhood. And I just wanted to bring that to the board's attention.
Thank you, Mr. Metcalf. Anybody else have any questions for Mr. Pipes? Thank you, Mr. Pipes. All right. Who's next up for your group?
Bob was going to talk.
Okay. Mr. Isaacson?
Yes, sir. This is Robert Isaacson. My address is 740 Museum Drive, Mobile, Alabama. I'm a real estate developer here in town. I have consulted for hotels at one of the hotels that are right here. So I'm pretty familiar with these hotels. I'm also, besides my real estate and background, I was a former police officer in Beaumont, Texas for a number of years. And I was an FBI agent supervisor for 10 years in New Orleans. So I have a history, a background of law enforcement and crime prevention. I'm very familiar with this area, as I've indicated to you, and I know the Delaney's very well and I've been to their office many times. This is a crime-ridden area, unfortunately, and the police have attempted many times to slow this down. Unfortunately, what's happened is that these motels have become the lesser cost motels in town, and they become a haven for drug dealers in the motels themselves. On any given day or night, you can go to the motels, and if you don't look like I do now with a white collar shirt on, and you go there in a little bit of a transpondent car, you can walk in and walk up to the rooms and buy drugs. I have talked to several of the managers, and quite frankly, the managers are individually terrified. I talked to one lady who was a very professional lady. If I was running hotels, I'd try to hire her. She's been with that particular chain, which is quite frankly the nicest there, the La Quinta chain, for 11 years. She's their go-to person whenever they have a problem property. They put her there a year ago. She said, I'll do anything in the world for my bosses, but I have to get out of here or I'm gonna die. This is too terrible here. There's too much crime. And as she and I were talking in the front of her hotel, which is gorgeous and which has now an 8-foot fence all the way around it, they have built 8-foot wooden fence around it. She said, if I didn't have this fence, I would not be here. We would just die. They would rob us every day. She said, there's no vehicle that comes in here with anything in the vehicle that doesn't get broken into. There's no trailer that comes in here with equipment on it that doesn't get vandalized. There's no equipment that doesn't get stolen, period. None. She said, as we were standing there, it was Thursday afternoon. I've been there since. She said, oh yeah, today there's 2 ladies just showed up from Houston. They come every Thursday. They bring their drugs from Houston. They stay in the room upstairs. They get the same room every time. They sell it out. They sell their drugs until they sell out. And then they drive back to Houston. I said, well, doesn't someone do anything about this? She said, I've called the police 100 times. I'm exaggerating, multiple times. I've spent time with the FBI. By the time they get here, the ladies have driven back to New Orleans, or back to Houston Friday afternoon or Saturday afternoon. They never have raided them. So they're everywhere. And as we're standing there, a shirtless man who was obviously deranged, he was screaming, hollering his hands, etc., barefoot and shirtless, walked by in front of the hotel. The 24 acres that are in the back is a homeless encampment. I've walked through there. There's tents, ladies, men, people living there permanently, and they have nothing on their minds but coming out, buying their drugs, and then going to a grocery store nearby, a little 7-Eleven store, to buy some kind of sugary item to satisfy their habit, and coming back. And while they're going and coming, they have to try to make some kind of money, either prostitution, theft, vagrancy, something, panhandling, whatever it might be. So
1
this
minute.
truly a terrible, unfortunately terrible location. I've talked to the chief, I've talked to the district manager, chief. They're going to try to do something about it as more and more people move in. But this fence is essential for this client. I would, as my professional opinion. Without this fence, they will be ardent victims and consistent victims of crime. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Isaacson. Any board members have any questions for Mr. Isaacson? All right, thank you. All right, next, Bennett or Earl?
Well, we have Bennett and Earl available if there are any questions that the board members had of them as owners. They've had a series of security incidences since they've owned the property, and their own anecdotal encounters, but they're available to answer questions if y'all have any for them.
Thank you, Mr. Pipes. Any of the board members, do you have a question for Earl or Bennett Long?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, for the record, the board should have been provided with the online comments that were uploaded into the portal, and you should have comments in support of this application from both Michael Delaney and Scott Delaney of 225 Spring Hill Memorial Place.
Thank you, Margaret. The only comment I'll make is that I think I was the one in the previous meeting that asked for a rendering of the fence just to get an idea of what it looked like. I do think that that's important. And I think that, at least in my opinion, it's an extremely well done fence. It seems like to me, a lot of times fences are an afterthought and they're done as cheaply as possible. This seemed to be the exact opposite. I mean, I felt like it was an extremely nice, well done, consistent fence with what their facility looks like, which is a first-class office building. So
thank you.
Thank you for that. All right. Any other questions or comments from the board member? All right. If not, I will ask for a motion. Let me just reiterate real quick. Staff recommends that we consider all relevant aspects of the applicant's concerns and determine if the front yard setback variance request merits approval or denial based upon the finding of fact.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Mr. Metcalf.
I move for approval of the amended application.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
Who was that second? Mr. Burrows?
Yes, second.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You.
All right, Margaret, do you need me to wait for a second for application, the start of the public hearing to get?
Yes, please. It'll take me. Okay, I've just admitted Patrick Garstecki. Patrick, can you hear us?
Yes, I can, Margaret.
Okay. All right, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. We'll now begin the public hearing section of our meeting with application number 6328, 6270, and 5653, Marine Rigging Incorporated. This is a use, access, maneuvering, and tree planting variance to allow tension testing and research of marine rigging components vehicular access maneuvering area within the public right-of-way, reduced tree plantings for commercial site in a B4 general business district. All right, and this one is recommended for approval, subject to donation of $1,600 to the Mobile Tree Commission to mitigate the shortage of 8 overstory trees at $200 per tree, in full compliance with all municipal codes and ordinances. Okay, Mr. Garstecki, are you in agreement with the staff's recommendation, or do you have any additional comments?
No, we're in agreement.
All right, thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Garstecki? All right, if not, I will ask for a motion.
So moving. Approval subject to staff recommendation.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Garstecki.
Thank you all. We appreciate it.
All right, Margaret, do you want me to wait until we admit Miss Isbell?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Miss Isbell, can you hear us?
Yes, can you see me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
All right. Moving on to number 4, application number 6329, Deborah and Roy Isbell, 19 Government Street. The request is for a sign variance to allow the placement of a double-sided hanging post sign not exceeding 6 feet per side for an associated home occupation in an RB residence business district. This application has been recommended for approval, subject to the limitation of the sign to the size as submitted in the application, the obtaining of the proper sign permit for the sign, in full compliance with all municipal codes and ordinances. Ms. Isbell, have you read the staff's recommendation, and are you in agreement?
Yes, wonderful.
Is there anything you'd like to add at all?
I have something to say, but if you will approve it, then I don't need to say anything.
Okay. Well,
She's learned from the lawyers she works with, I can tell.
that's fine.
Definitely.
Okay.
When you're ahead, be quiet.
Okay. Well, thank you. Sounds good. Do any of the board members have any questions for Ms. Isbell? All right. If there are none, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Any discussion? All right. So I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Isbell.
Thank you so much.
Have a great day. All right, moving on to number 5. All right, moving on to number. Mr. Watkins, you're looking casual today.
Hey, this is where I dress every day now. I hadn't put a suit on since, I take that back. I've been to one wedding. I'm kind of getting used to this. I may take all my suits to Goodwill.
I understand. Glad you're with us. Okay, application 6330 and 6170 Merchants Alabama LLC. It's a variance request for a front yard setback variance to allow the construction of elevated emergency exits and associated stairs within a required front yard setback in an I2 heavy industrial district. Mr. Watkins, staff recommends this application for approval. Have you seen the staff's recommendation?
I've seen the staff recommendations and the conditions, and my client is fine with all the conditions and appreciates the staff recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Do any of the board members have any questions for Mr. Watkins? All right, if there are none, I will call for a motion. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to
So moved.
approve is
All right, who made that?
Coleman.
I'm sorry.
Vernon Coleman.
All right, Mr. Coleman, do I have a second?
Second.
second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Watkins.
Thank all of you. I appreciate it.
All right, have a good day.
Too.
All right, applications 6. Okay, Margaret, are we okay to proceed?
Are you Mr. Harris or Mr. Gilmore?
Mr. Gilmore with Target.
Okay. Is Mr. Harris also attending or just you?
I believe Dylan Adam is with Kimley Horn Associates.
Okay, hold on just a moment, please. Thank you. Okay, I have admitted him.
Okay.
Okay. Dylan, can you hear us?
Yes, ma'am, I can.
Okay. All right, Mr. Chairman, those are the only two that I had signed up.
Okay, thank you. Dylan, what is your last name? I'm sorry.
My last name's Adame, Adame.
Thanks. All right, appreciate it. All right, we'll proceed at application number 6331, 6031, 5764. It's a variance request for a sign variance to allow 3 wall signs for a single tenant with 2 street frontages located on a multi-tenant site in a B3 community business district. Staff has recommended approval for this application. Mr. Gilmore, Mr. Adame, have y'all seen the staff's recommendation?
I had not.
I have not.
Okay. The staff has recommended that your application be approved. So if you have any additional questions or comments, feel free to add them, but it has been recommended for approval.
Okay. I don't have anything additional. Dylan, do you?
No, I don't. That's great to hear.
Okay. Board members, does anybody have any questions for the applicant? Okay, if there are none, then the chair will entertain a motion. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All right, if not, I have a motion to approve in a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
very much.
Appreciate it. Moving on to number 7.
Okay, I've admitted Mr. Williams into the meeting. He's here for this application.
All right. Thank you, Margaret. Okay, we'll move on to application number 6332. Janet Conte, agent is Don Williams, 51 South Catherine Street, requesting a front yard setback variance to allow for the addition of a front porch and accessibility ramp to an existing dwelling within a required front yard setback in an R1 single family residential district. This application has been recommended for approval, subject to obtaining all necessary permits prior to construction and full compliance with all municipal codes and ordinances. Mr. Williams, you're on mute, I think.
Hold on, let me see if I can help him. Up, home.
Unmute.
There you go.
How's that work?
Hey, Don, how are you? Don, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right, good. I can hear you.
Excellent.
So have you seen the staff recommendation?
Yes, sir.
And y'all are in agreement with that?
Yes, sir. Staff is recommending approval with those conditions, and we are totally in agreement.
Sounds good. All right. Any board members have any questions for Mr. Williams? All right. If not, then I will call for a motion. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
So move.
All right. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion? All right. If not, I have a motion to approve in a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
do you mind taking number 9 out of order and making it next, because Mr. Williams also represents that application?
No problem at all. All right. Sorry. All right. Moving to application number 6295 6006 5953, Gray Arnold, Don Williams agent at 103 North Warren Street, requesting a site variance to allow covered, partially enclosed terrace and reduced transparency in an SDWH special district warehousing the downtown development district. All right, this one is requesting a 6-month extension of the approval of the previously approved variance. Mr. Williams, will you just kind of give us the reason for the request for extension?
There was a question about financing, but he has now received that financing. He got his tax refund earlier in the year, and that was what was going to move him forward with the putting the roof back on again and moving forward with the project.
Thank you. Okay. Sounds good. Any questions from board members? If none, then we'll go ahead and do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve is recommended.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All right, so I have a motion, a second. Any discussion? All right, if not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Don.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Margaret.
You're welcome.
All right, the last application is Flora Thompson. Does she have?
She's joining the meeting now.
Okay.
Ms. Thompson, can you hear us? Ms. Thompson, can you hear us? Okay. All right, you need to unmute. There you are.
Still can't hear her.
Yeah. She's not muted. Ms.
No.
Thompson, we cannot hear you.
Could there be a volume issue?
I don't know. Ms. Thompson, did you call in? Okay, hold on. Let me see if this is it. All right, try now.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, good deal. Application number 6306, Flora Thompson, 1915 Hunter Avenue, requesting a front yard and rear yard setback variance to allow a structure to encroach within the front yard and rear yard setbacks in an R1 single family residential district. And this applicant is requesting a 6-month extension of the approval that was previously given. Ms. Thompson, do you have anything to add to that at all?
No, I didn't have all the contracts in place before the initial setback approval. I thought that was presumptuous, and it's just proven to be very problematic to get all the ducks in a row since the lockdown happened.
I gotcha. That makes sense. All right, thank you. Any questions? Board members, do you have any questions for Mrs. Thompson at all? All right, if none, application is say a request for a 6-month extension. Do I have a motion to
So move.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, if not, then I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None, so motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Have a great day. All right, that concludes our extension. So our last is the other business, application deadline and meeting schedule. So I guess we have a meeting schedule to approve. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, has everybody had a chance to look at the schedule? Any issues or questions?
I haven't looked at it, but I don't have any problems with it. If it comes out, I'll make arrangements to attend.
I think it runs consistent with what it has in the past. So
Yeah, whatever in the past, yeah.
So do I have a motion to approve?
So move,
So
Mr.
moved.
Chair.
Thanks. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it's approved. I think that concludes this meeting.
Yes, it does. I want to thank the board and especially you, Mr. Milling, for stepping up to chair it. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely, no problem. I can always use the extra money.
I know.
Good job, Jim.
We'll get that direct
You have to
deposit.
share,
right
Jeremy. You have
there
to share.
now.
And Margaret,
Yes,
Went
sir.
pretty smooth.
Margaret,
Yes, sir.
did I behave myself?
You were glowing.
I don't know how to take that, but I'll take it.